Over on both sides, we will learn another beautiful piece of Zera Shimshon, this week's parsha, as we start this new Chumash, Chumash Shemot, the Chumash that talks so much about the Golus Mitzrayim and afterwards the great Geula from Mitzrayim, as the Kodesh Baruch Hu has promised Yaakov Avinu in Parshas Vayigash, Anoichi Eret Imcha Mitzrayim, I will go down with you to Mitzrayim, Anoichi Alcha Gam Oloi, and I will take you out from Mitzrayim. And we're going to speak about this more about Arichos. And here the parsha begins and discusses in a summary what was already discussed in the end of the last Chumash, which is that Klal Yisrael with Yaakov and Shivim Nefesh go down to Mitzrayim, where you have over there, including the Yosef and his wife and children, and you have Yocheved, who was born Ben HaChoimos, as they entered into Mitzrayim. Altogether, it's Shivim Nefesh. After the parsha begins, Ve'ela Shemot B'nei Yisrael Aboyim Mitzrayim. These are the names of B'nei Yisrael who are coming to Mitzrayim, which also needs a hesber. Why it says Haboim Mitzrayim, it should say that did come to Mitzrayim and not Haboim. Maybe we will mention this later on. In Zera Shimshon, you will see how there is an answer for this. After the Medrash, Eis Yaakov, Ishu Beisay Bo, together with Yaakov, Ishu Beisay, each man in his household. Bo, they came, and it talks about the names: Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Binyamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, and all the Nefesh, Yotze, Yerech, Yaakov, all together, as we said, including Yocheved ben Achoimos and Yosef, who was in Mitzrayim, is Shivim Nefesh. And then Yosef, Cholecha, Choladar, who everyone's nifter, and then starts this terrible shibud, and Klal Yisrael are waiting and crying for the Geula, and the Mitzvah Hashem, there's going to be the Geula later on in this Chumash. So, Rabbi side, we begin the first pasuk, and here's where we find a Givaldik Shaila, which the Al-Shech HaKadosh poses, and the Zera Shimshon also speaks about it, and answers a very beautiful text on it. The pasuk begins and talks about Yaakov, and he calls him Yisrael, sons of Yisrael who come to Mitzrayim, who are coming to Mitzrayim. And then it finishes off with the same subject, which is that they came with their father called Yaakov, but before we call him Yisrael, now we suddenly call him Yaakov. Eis Yaakov, Ishu, Beisay, Bo, each man in his household came. So there's three questions over here, which are really basically one question. Why did the pasuk say the name of Yaakov twice in the same pasuk? Also, why did it switch from Yisrael to Yaakov? And why does it begin with Yisrael and go down to Yaakov? Because Yisrael is the name that denotes greatness, kedusha, elevation, sorisa im Elohim v'manoshim batuchal, whereas Yaakov is ekev, the heel, which denotes shiftless, being at the bottom, and not so much kedusha. So it's very strange that it went Tafka in such a way. And if you look at the Al-Shech asked the question over there right at the beginning of the parsha, in Ois, hey, he says, Loma Niskar Abiyim Zeh Pa'amayim, why was their father mentioned this twice, these two times? Upam one pasuk. Upam b'shem Yisrael, upam b'shem Yaakov, why did it switch the names? If you go with the way of Malim B'Kodesh, you go up in holiness. Should have started the name of Yaakov and ends up with the name Yisrael. And here it goes the opposite. Rabbi said, from here comes the Al-Shech HaKadosh and says, in this small pasuk, there's hinted the entire secret of what is to be accomplished with Golus Mitzrayim. What is the Siba of Golus Mitzrayim? And the Al-Shech HaKadosh is very, very much speaking at length about this right at the beginning of the parsha, and we're going to bring a bit of it. And he says that the Tachlis of, when he asks the question, why should there be a Golus Mitzrayim, he says these words, V'hinei lo ba'il inyan, to come to this inyan, to understand what's going on, Roi kol ish chacham levo. Any person who has a wise heart, it is only proper for him to search with wisdom. Why did Hashem do so? So these holy people who are in the land. Yaakov v'chol nefesh haba Mitzrayim, or Yaakov and all the souls that came to Mitzrayim. L'she tachasiv lois Mitzrayim, to put under the tremendous burdens and suffering of Mitzrayim as b'neiim u'bnei b'neiim, their children and their grandchildren, and so on. Mosayim ve'eser shana, 210 years. B'chimer b'lveinim u'b'chol avodah b'sadeh, all such terrible work. Ma'pishom u'ma'chatotim, what was their sin that they should have such a thing done to them? Ba'aloi l'choshid kutsha berichu, the aved dina v'loi dina chalila. But Baruch Hu is not to be suspected that he does a din without justice, without being justified, without having a real reason for it, chalila. So he goes in the whole arichos, and there he says the following, that all this began with the inyan of Chet of Adam Arishan. And the Chet of Adam Arishan was done through the Nachash, through that terrible snake who was the Koach of Tumah, and through that the Nachash had defiled the man and put into him a zuama, put into him this terrible psilus of materialism, and so on and so forth. This is what was put in through the Chet Adam Arishan. And the tachlis of everything was to get to Matan Torah, to get to a matzev where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is able to bring to Am Yisrael a holy Torah and make them all mizoichet to the nevuah of having Hashem speaking to them. And then when they come to Har Sinai, is Paska Zuhamasam, that Zuhama is stopped, V'nimtu kulam muchanim l'nevuah, and then all of them are ready for nevuah. Ki ein se'or she'isol ha'akev, because there's no more yeast in the dough, which is Yetzer Hara, and all this materialism to be ma'akev, to disturb their reaching the level of nevuah. Because without the se'or she'isol kol ish Yisrael kadosh yomer lo, every Jew is holy, and it would have been just like Adam would be before this terrible zuama that was put into him, this terrible dirt, this terrible psilus. And I always say, how did this all come about? It takes a long time, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu was doing it already through Adam Arishan. After Adam Arishan was trying to purify himself, but then it really started from Avraham Avinu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tested Avraham Eser Pa'amin, he said, Lehatich, that's in order to take out from him chelik rav min zuhama, along a big chelik of this zuhama. And in order that Yitzchak, his son, should be born with as less zuhama as possible, Kodesh Baruch Hu made it that Avraham Avinu should be moiled him only when he's 100 years old, and Sarah is 90 years old. And they don't have a Yetzer Hara, and they don't have Taiva. So they're separated so much from materialism. And Sarah does not even have the real normal nidus, the blood of nida, which comes from this zuhama. And so on and so forth. Hashem made sure that Yishmael should be born first, in order he should take out the zuhama. And then Yitzchak should be born. And then Yitzchak has a bris milah, which also helps for this point, that the Kedushas HaMilah will bring to tremendous Kedusha. And when we come to Yaakov, and Yaakov has Mitasa Shlema, he has all the Shiftei Kah, his bed is complete, means all his children are tzaddikim just like him. But even with all this, still, there was not a total purity in Klal Yisrael. And in order that this should happen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He nicham kezahav b'techkur. He put them in like you put gold into a fiery furnace. Shemafrish hazav v'tarecho, that because of the fire in the furnace, it separates the gold to one side, v'hasigim, and the impurities with tzaracher to the other side. And he says this kur is Mitzrayim, which is called kur habarzel, where there is the strength of the chitzonius, of the mezuhemes, of all the zuama. It's called irva sa'oretz. It's the dirt of the land. It's terribly abominating. V'hu le'umas Eretz Yisrael, and it's the opposite of Eretz Yisrael. It's a place of total tumah. And ukehituch kesef b'tech kur, the same as one purifies silver in a furnace. So he says that's what happens over here in Mitzrayim, that the tumah of Mitzrayim, which was so great, pulled out those in Klal Yisrael that still had in them this Zuama, which were the Rishoyim of Klal Yisrael, and they were pulled out to the Tumah of Mitzrayim, to like the fire of the Tumah of Mitzrayim, and these were the ones who died in the time of Makas Choshech, and then the other Yidden, those that were Gavra Yad Kedushasam, that their Kedusha was so strong, they were the ones who left Mitzrayim, and that's why it says there was only Echad Chamisha, one of 5, or one of 50, or one of 500, or one of 5,000 of the Yidden that were in Mitzrayim that left over there. Kivubam Kol Tumah Mitzrayim, because most of them, the Tumah Mitzrayim had been koile, had schlepped them out. And Rabbi Isai, and even with all this, still we needed the days of Sfir Sa'omer, which was like the Shiva Nikiyim, 7 special clean days, in order to be zoiche to stand on Har Sinai, and then be zoiche to Nevuah, and have Hashem speak to Klal Yisrael, where they were able to hear from the Rabbeinu Shalom like Panim B'Panim Mamish. So Rabbi Isai, this is the tachlis of the whole thing. Says the Al Shech HaKodesh, this is Merumez in the first pasuk over here in the Parsha. The Kol Zei Yitachin Ram Zolanu HaTorah, all this, it is Yitachin, this is what the Torah wanted to hint to us. Meshachno Yisrael Tamo, when it switched its taste, its reason. As for Arei Avinu, it changed the titles of our father. And it starts B'nai Yisrael and ends with Yaakov. B'nai Yisrael, Aboy Mitzrayim, es Yaakov. V'hu, he says, because Klal Yisrael, they were the Bechinas HaKedusha Be'etzem, and that is called the Shem Yisrael. And that's the ones who are coming to Mitzrayim, which are the Helike Yidden. But the Tachlis was in order to take out from them that Zuama, which would be called Yaakov. Zeu Omer Be'ela Shmois B'nai Yisrael, Tzadikim, HaMisyachsin Ala Kedusha Be'etzem, that's Klal Yisrael, which will Be'etzem are Tzadikim, and they're considered Kedoshim. Asher Bo in Mitzrayim, when they go into Golus, Es Yaakov, that's because they have in them this Yaakov, this Bechina of Zuhama, and in these tzadikim there is this Zuhama, and that is why Ishu Beis Bo, in order that they should purify them from the Zuhama of what they have in Balua, what is absorbed in them. Rabbi Isai, this is what the Al Shech HaKodesh answers so beautifully this question. However, the Zera Shimshon comes and gives a very novel interpretation. Why is it written that the pasuk begins with Yisrael and ends with Yaakov? And he brings it with the Yesod. The Yesod is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had given Haftachat to Yaakov on the Geula. And the words, Anoichi Ered Imcha Mitzrayma, Ve'anoichi Alcha Gam Aloi. I will take you out from the Galus. I'll go in with you to the Galus. Now, if really we can understand this pasuk in 2 ways. It could be talking not about the Golus, because Yaakov, let's say, will say, he wasn't part of the Golus. He enjoyed himself in Mitzrayim. He didn't have any Shibud, and only after he died, after Yosef died, that's when the great Shibud began. So in that case, we can understand that it just means to say, I will go down with you to Mitzrayim, and I will take you out and bury you in Eretz Yisrael, like happened. But then in that case, there's no haftacha on the Golus and Geula to Klal Yisrael. But if we could say that Yaakov is also included in a way in the Golus, then we could explain that Anoichi Ered Imcha Mitzrayma is going on Yaakov as the Golus Yid. And Anoichi Alcha Gam Aloi is therefore going on the Geula of him and his children in the future. And then you have Haftacha on the Geula. But in order to do that, you have to understand how could it be that Yaakov was part of the Golus. And one could say that he was called with the name Yaakov with Lashon of Shiflus. Hooray, Yaakov Avinu was having a great time in Mitzrayim. He was holy and everything was great, and the Shibud did not begin then. However, says the Zera Shimshon, you could say that since, after all, Yaakov was not in his own land, and he wasn't in the Holy Land, so that alone was by him a sorrow. And so it says in the Zohar Kodesh, Parshas Vayishlach, Kufa and Gimel Amud Beis, it says that Yaakov Tishhoya Be'eretz Yisrael, and he was berevach, which was the best matzav of being in his own land with Kedusha. So that's when he's called Yisrael. And when he's leaving his own land and he's in a place of Tumah, and it's terrible for him, and that mitzvah, that Koira Yaakov. So now you could say that really there is a haftacha to Yaakov, that though by Yaakov was not part of the Shibut, and that he says is a beautiful remez for what Hashem told Yaakov in Vayigash, the Yosef, Yoshis Yoda Leinecha, that what's going to happen by Yosef, when the Yosef is going to die, and then there's going to be a tremendous Shibut. And because of that, Nismu Ineim V'Libam Sheyisrael Mitzaras HaShibut, like Rashi said at the beginning of Vayechi, Yoshis Yoda Leinecha, he will put his hand over your eyes. It will not happen to you, because in your days, there's not going to be, your eyes will not be Nistam Machmastar Shibut. But even though he didn't have that, but he did have the name Yaakov, and he did have a nekuda of Shibut, not because of the Shibut, but of the Tzara, and that is the fact that he's not in his own land, and that he's not in his holy land. He's in a place of Tumah. And that alone is a Tzara. And therefore, the Midrash tells us that in a different place, in Eicha Beis Tes, over there it says that for on his bow, Yaakov is Margish, Toiva Bo is also Yaakov is Margish, and that is the exact Avtocha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given. It's not just that Anochi Alpha Gam Allah is talking about Kvura in Eretz Yisrael, but it is Anochi Herdim Chom Mitzrayim to the Tzara, which is you and your children, but Anochi Alpha Gam Allah, you and your children from the Golus. So in that case, if we say all this, look at Zera Shimshon, we have a beautiful chapter in the first pasuk. And that's what the pasuk is telling us. There's Avtacha for the Geula. When we come into Mitzrayim, there's Avtacha for the Geula. And that's what it says. It is true that really when they come to Mitzrayim until Yaakov was Nifter, it's Yisrael, and it's all with Chayra, Mitzad the Shibud, Mitzad the real Tzara. You don't have any real Tzara. But you should know, there still is this idea of Tzara, if not Mitzad the Shibud Shaboy, but Mitzad the fact that he's not in his holy own land, there is a certain sorrow for that. And therefore, is Nichlal in this Taftacha of Anochi Erev Imcha Mitzrayim V'Anochi Alpha Gam Oloi, and therefore, it's going on, there's Taftacha for the Geula. Those are the names that we're supposed to be Medayik as the Medrash. The Eila Shemois, these are the names of what? That are Al Shem HaGeula. And it's Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, the Medrash says, Reuven is Al Shem, Roy, Roisi, is Ani, Ami, Asher, Mitzrayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees the affliction of Klal Yisrael, Shimon, he hears their screams from the affliction, and so on and so forth. It's all going about the inyan of the Geula. So Rabbi Yisai, we are in a hemshech of this Golus Mitzrayim, because Golus Mitzrayim and Geulas Mitzrayim is the shoyrish of all Goliyos and all Geulos, and we're all waiting for the final Kiyum Haftacha of Anoichi Alcho Gam Oloi, which in the Farshim, the Chazal say, is why it's written double Gam Oloi, because it's talking about not only this Golus of Mitzrayim, but in the combination of the Golus of Mitzrayim, in all the other Goliyos, including our great Golus that we are in, the Golus of Edom and Yishmael. Kodesh Baruch Hu should help. We should all be Zoichev. It's the Shabbos Kodesh, which is approaching, and we're Meschazik in the Heilige Shabbos, and the Koach of Shabbos is the Koach of Geula, as Chazal say, Miyad Nigolim, Mikoach, being the kind of Shabbos like we should, and we also find that this inyan of Shabbos, Klal Yisrael kept the Mitzrayim, as a Medrash that talks about it, that Klal Yisrael was Meschazik in the Shabbos. We should be Zoichev, that also us, to the Anoichi Alcha Gam Oloi, to the Gula Shleima, the Mehira, the Yameinu, Amen, Kain Yehi Ratzain. Good Shabbos to everyone.